Welcome everyone to Ignite Your Leader Within, the three-part videocast series that is dedicated specifically to you as female CEOs, business owners, and C-level executives, all geared around really igniting your business, career, and life ambitions. I'm Bernadette Boas, and I'll do a slight intro in a few minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that you're comfortable, you have a pen and paper, and you are kind of capable of just taking this next 30, 35 minutes to be strictly all about you and your goals and ambitions for your business, career, and life. So to get started, let me make sure you have the presentation up in front of you. And this will provide you an opportunity to see both the presentation and my lovely face. But as I mentioned, our three-part videocast series around igniting your leader within is all focused on really giving you the tips, tools, and support needed to really exploit, I want to say, what you're capable of from a leadership perspective in your business, career, and life. The three-part videocast series breaks down like this. The first program, which you're watching right now, is all around how to create and live your leadership brand. Many of us know about leadership and we know about branding, and yet the combination of the two of them are critical when it really comes to how you want to go out in the world, both in your business and your life, and how do you want to be perceived and how are you being perceived. The second videocast series, which would then be sent to you in about a week, which will give you enough time to sit back and view the first videocast. We're going to talk about how to ignite your team, your network, and yourself to performance, passion, and profit. That way, leveraging your entire circle or network in order to really support your business goals and your career and life ambitions. And then lastly, a topic that's not often discussed is we're going to talk about what your CEO, which could be you, by the way, what your CEO really needs from you. And if you are the CEO, it could be your board, it could be your team, but predominantly a lot of conversation doesn't happen around what a CEO is really looking from their team members. And it's really important that everyone is on the same page in order to ensure that everyone, yourself, the business, and your CEO potentially, are meeting the goals and objectives that they have for themselves. And if you could understand what those are and kind of live those as well, then it's a win-win for everybody. So, as I said, it's three parts, and you'll be receiving the videos about a week apart over the next 3 weeks from the time that you've registered. And in that way, it'll give you time to view it yourself, and then at the same time, feel free to share it with other members of your team. Again, my name is Bernadette Boas. I am CEO and Principal Consultant of Ball of Fire Consulting, which is a practice that I started when I left corporate back in 2008. Basically taking my 25 years experience as a mentor, as a coach, as a principal consultant, as a leader in various functions and various roles over those 25 years, everything from buyer all the way up to chief knowledge officer at a global capacity, and working with Fortune 500 clients on what their business goals and objectives are and finding solutions to them. Now, I segued into this whole focus around women in leadership over the past couple of years because I certainly had my share of successes and missteps throughout my own corporate career, and then fortunately those lessons, those missteps, those best practices, those successes as well, then led to what I've been doing over the past 4 or 5 years in my own practice. So my book, Shedding the Corporate Bitch, is basically a capture of kind of the do's and the don'ts, the successes and the failures, the highs and the lows of being a female leader, and then how I kind of interpreted what my role was as a leader and what kind of impact that had on the people and my career as well, both personally and professionally, quite honestly. So that has kind of led into other projects and other initiatives that I work on. But the one that I'm very, very passionate about is actually what we're talking about, and that is how do we ignite ourselves as leaders, as female leaders, in order to really pursue the goals and the objectives that we have for our business, career, and life. And we do it in such a way that it contributes greatly to the people, the businesses, the community around us. So that's who I am, and you can learn more about me on my LinkedIn profile or on ballerfireconsulting.com. All right, so this program's subject is all around creating and living your leadership brand. Like I said, many of us know what leadership is. Many of us know and maybe understand what branding is, but what does that mean when it's kind of pulled together and basically positioned as the way you go out into the world and the way the world, even more importantly, perceives that. And you determining what that brand is significant to how effective you are in your role as a leader, whether that is at a CEO level, a business owner level, a C-level executive, or any other position in the company, because we will talk about some myths and beliefs, and one of those is you don't even have to be responsible for anyone to lead. And that's a critical component of really kind of being that leader, being the CEO really of your business, career, and life. But our subject is really around and directed to actual CEOs, business owners, and C-level executives, and how can they create and live their leadership brand. Now, I've become very passionate about the subject over the last couple of years, even though I've been working it for many years, because more so of the negative, naysaying commentary that is out there all over the airwaves, the internet, throughout even LinkedIn, throughout blogs, throughout high-profile magazine articles, and even amongst other women. And then, of course, we hear it all through the hallways. And you know what those things are. They're what the women shouldn't do, should do as women leaders, what they are capable of, they're not capable of, all the negative stereotypes and beliefs around what women are incapable of achieving, as opposed to what I like to focus on and what we will focus on throughout this program is really what are women already achieving and already contributing to their business, to their community, and then how do we use that in order to create energy and focus and momentum and confidence in ourselves and all of those around us in order to forge forward in our goals and our objectives. And I found a great resource in a book called How Women Lead, and that book in itself provides great tips and resources for you as well in regards to what it means to be a woman in key leadership positions and how women can optimize their natural skills, talents, traits, and attributes in order to really excel in key leadership positions, whether it be public or private. And so some of the statistics that they report within the book from various studies that they have done all contribute to the value and the contribution that women bring. And we're going to talk throughout this three-part series around the fact that now you need to kind of appreciate and understand that value and contribution that you're making to the business and to your life in order to really propel you to the next stage or the next level, so to speak, in your business career or your life. So here from a Pepperdine University study, they have found that businesses with more women in leadership are surpass their profit objectives and the profit plan, and are seeing tremendous growth as a result of what women are able to bring to the table. And in a Catalyst study, they have found that companies with the highest representation of women in top management have achieved not only higher return on investment, but also higher returns on stakeholders' investment. So both from an ROI perspective and the shareholders' perspective. And that is critical when we consider, as CEOs, as C-level executives and business owners, the P&L, so to speak, it all comes down to the bottom line in many respects, and yet we are going to talk about that leadership is not about the bottom line. So we have to differentiate those two. But us focusing on the bottom line is critical, and many of these studies are finding that women that play significant roles in organizations are contributing greatly to that richness in the return on investment for many, many companies. And then lastly, a MIT study has found that the most effective and collaborative teams have a higher proportion of women on them. And again, this is going to go back to something we'll talk about shortly, and that is the natural traits and abilities women have, women possess, and if they bring those things to the table as opposed to suppress them, then it is creating and providing a lot more collaborative, engaging, inclusive types of organizations. And that's certainly what not only the organization wants, but the individual people that we as leaders are responsible for serving and responsible for managing. It's what they're looking for. And we're going to talk a lot about that as well. Now, some myths and beliefs, because as much as I want to hang on to the positive, productive, and high value contributions that women are making, we can't ignore the fact that it's our own individual beliefs and myths and what we allow the outside noise to kind of influence us around that also keeps women from really pursuing ambitious goals and really pursuing kind of the glass ceiling or the corporate board seat or whatever the case might be. And a lot of times is creating the drama around why women aren't doing something or can't do something or shouldn't be doing something. And we as women, individuals and as a community, need to stop that, need to put a hold on that and really shut it down even before it starts. And therefore, I just did want to point out some myths and beliefs that if you were to really see past them, then it will contribute significantly to your success and your progression in your business career and your life. So first off, I had mentioned it earlier, ambition. It's not a bad word. To have dreams and goals, which is ambition, is not a bad thing. And I know that that word has been trashed a lot over the last several decades, quite honestly, as women lib has kind of taken hold in what perceptions both men and women have of those of us who do have big goals and dreams. But if we can believe in ourselves, if you can believe that your ambitions, your goals and your dreams are simply that, they're your goals and your dreams, and that is not a bad thing. Of course, there's the old time one that you don't have to have anybody responsible or directly reporting to you to be a leader. You can be an individual contributor and be a leader. And I remember one of my mentors and longtime business colleagues. I never worked for him, if I remember correctly, but he actually, I walked into his room and he asked me, he looked up at his whiteboard in his office, and he has the whole kind of hierarchy of the areas that he was responsible for. And he said, Bernadette, I have a question for you. As much as I kind of oversee this whole hierarchy, no one is really directly responsible and accountable to me. So he actually was kind of positioned as an individual leader and certainly gave guidance and advisement to a large organization globally, actually. And yet his immediate leaders were leaders of themselves who didn't have direct accountability and responsibility and P&L into him. So he was kind of questioning, all right, I get it. They don't have to kind of report to me, and yet I need to find the most effective methods and means of my leading them. And leadership has nothing to do with the number of people that report to you. It has to do with the influence and the ability for you to have other people want to and choose to follow you. and we'll talk about that more of that as well. One big myth and belief is the fact that leaders should be served, as opposed to leaders are servers. And our role as a leader, your role as a leader, is not to be in a servant, is not to be in a served position, but more so you are there to serve your team, to serve your people. And many leaders don't get that. Our team, if they're not being served, they won't contribute, they won't produce, they won't follow. And so it's important for us as leaders to understand that we are there to serve others. You are there to serve your teammates. You are there to serve your business. You are there to serve those around you. And if you can understand that and appreciate that, your dynamic of your leadership style will change dramatically. Now, a few things that are kind of stereotypical beliefs that actually women create more so than even men create them for us, but they believe that it's more so generated from the men in the room, so to speak, and that is that if you speak up, you're either bitchy or pushy. And if you can get kind of realize, and that's more of a confidence thing than it is anything else. Of course, if you're speaking up in a way that is not productive, is not collaborative, is not engaging, is not inclusive, then that's a whole different story. But I'm going to be speaking on more of the constructive, positive approaches that many leaders take, and that is they're expected to speak up. And you as a leader speaking up should not be perceiving that as pushy. And if others do, if others perceive it that way, you have to really think about whether or not it's them that have the issue as opposed to you are in the wrong. And so we're going to talk a lot about kind of being just self-aware at all times and self-assessing at all times. And that is something that you need to kind of do a check-in on a regular basis, is asking yourself, is the way someone's interpreting or perceiving something that I'm doing about me, is it true about me, or is it kind of a self-induced judgment on themselves? Because a lot of judgments people make is really kind of a reflection or a projection of what they think of themselves. Now, it is true, perception is reality, and yet you have to be a little bit more diligent in really understanding whether or not that reality and that perception is true. We could spend a whole program on just that subject alone, and maybe we will on a future video cast. It's all about the bottom line. Big myth. It's not about the bottom line. It's about everything leading to the bottom line. Leadership is about, how you go about getting to that endpoint, getting to that profit, getting to whatever metrics you're responsible for. It's not about the bottom line. If we make it about the bottom line, that means it's simply about black and white that's on a piece of paper that reports a positive or a negative. And yet leadership and what it is that we do each and every day, and we're working so hard in doing, is so much more than that. And so if you can really understand that and get under that idea and that concept, then that'll open up a whole new kind of space in your head and your heart around what it is that you are as a leader. People are your greatest assets. No, they're not. It's what you do with those people that are your greatest assets. So, people could be showing up at work, but if they're not really being motivated and encouraged and included, then you can have all the people in the world and you can have a big asset on your P&L, but it's not going to get you to your end goal and objective. So people are your greatest assets is kind of a myth. It's more about what you do with those people and how you really ignite them, which we'll talk about in the next video cast, but how do you ignite them to really help you achieve the goals and objectives that are laid out in front of you. Wearing your heart on your sleeve is a weakness. We'll talk a lot about that. It's, there is a difference between coming in as a robot and coming in as a woman in our case. Coming in as a human. The bottom line, men or women, coming in as a human. Men don't want you at the table. Now, I probably like many of you, have spent majority of my career in rooms of only men. And my mentors predominantly have always been men, though I've always sought out, and I've had women throughout, but a great many of my mentors have been men. And it's one question I'll ask them on a regular basis. Is their thought, philosophy, perception of women at the table? And it is never the drama that women create and that women hang on to. Now, that's not to say there's not very male-oriented cultures out there that breed kind of the boys' club or breed those things and make women feel as if they're not welcome. But all I can tell you is this, and being a CEO, being C-level executive, how you really need to think about it is people in those positions have a bottom line goal and objective. Right? And that's the most important, is that bottom line when it comes to the end of the day. Not as you go through it, but when it comes to the end of the day. And I've yet to find a man who turns a individual away, female or male, that is going to help them achieve and accomplish those goals and objectives in that bottom line. And now, there's a lot in between, as we talked about, that could impact that ability and that contribution that a woman would make if they're not really providing an environment and providing a culture that really not exploits them, but really kind of does optimize their skills, talents, and achievements. Then, of course, that's going to hinder whether or not they accomplish their own goals and objectives. But I've yet to speak or meet or work with a man that would absolutely shut the door on someone who's going to contribute significantly to their goals and objectives. So I think we need to get a little bit more logical about that belief, which is predominantly what it is. And yet we often use it as a blame and as an excuse as to why we're not, as women, getting where we want to be. Talk to men. That's all I can suggest to you is, if you are turning your nose up to this idea, then just simply ask. And yet again, I will say that depending upon the man and depending upon the culture that leader themselves is creating, it could definitely be skewed. And yet then you have some decisions you can make. You can either accept it or you can kind of move on and find what it is that really is going to allow you to ignite your leader within. And then lastly, you have to lead like a man. And I can attest to that and have 254 pages of a book to attest to that. We as individuals, male or female, need to lead as we as individuals, male or female. We don't need to be leading like men. We don't need to be leading like women. We need to be leading like whoever it is that we truly are. And we'll talk a lot about that as we go forward. All right, I love this quote. I found it very valuable because of the fact that it really is just so simple. At least it appears to be when you actually read it and take it in, and yet it is so hard to apply. Now, I can attest of that for 25 years of not applying it, but more so even I can attest to it in myself over the last 4 or 5 years as I've kind of changed up my leadership plan and redefined it and relived it. And also, a lot of not only my clients, but even a lot of my female peers and colleagues and other just social friends around me, it's not necessarily always easy to apply. But I will go back to leaving you to kind of keep in the top of your mind. Is it hard because of my ability, your individual ability to execute these things, which I find hard to believe, and we'll talk about that in a second, or is it hard because other chatter, other noise, other concepts, other blames, other excuses are causing you to find or take a different path? And maybe it's the culture, maybe it's the environment, maybe it's the people around you, but that's still something external to what you know you're capable of being. So, Jim Rohn, infamous leader himself, the challenge of leadership is to be strong, but not to be rude, to be kind, but not weak, be bold, but not a bully, be thoughtful, but not lazy, be humble, but not timid, be proud, but not arrogant, and have humor, but without folly. A lot of people that leave that last piece off, and I find it interesting when they do, when they share this quote out, they kind of take that last piece off. I think it's very appropriate, because one belief or myth that I left off is that women who socialize and gab and are standing around the water cooler are often perceived as if they're just kind of goofing off, as if they're just gossiping and chatting and creating drama. And that's not necessarily true. We as women are social, collaborative, engaging individuals, and hanging out around a cup of coffee, we can get more done than sitting in a conference room for hours on end, right? I mean, can you relate to that? So I just find it interesting, and I love that quote, because I think, again, it reads very, oh yeah, that makes sense, very simplistic, very logical, and yet applying it, that's when a lot of the noise of the world around us, comes and starts influencing how we actually execute against that. So, the bottom line for me, and I'd love it if for you, by the time that we get through whether it's today's program or all three, is to really help you truly believe that you as a woman is all you need in order to be a leader, a strong, influential, goal-oriented leader. And therefore, any of the other naysayers, influences, excuses, blames, or any other perceptions that are out there as to how you should go about your leadership style, your leadership brand, I hope you are able to have the confidence and the strength and the boldness to just simply say, yeah, thank you very much, love the suggestions, but no thank you. So just basically, talk to the hand, so to speak, because women have just too much going for them to have to man up, to take on anybody else's persona other than themselves. And again, I can attest to that wholeheartedly, because it's exactly the path that I chose and went down at a very, very early age, that I definitely had to, not even man up, I just had to be nasty and aggressive and curt and kind of more demanding than commanding. And so if we as women, and you individually as a woman, can understand that your natural abilities, your natural traits that you're born and bred with, and then you nurture and maybe enhance over time, is enough, and is exactly what your team members, your bosses, your board of directors, that is what they're looking for. Because again, let's go back to those statistics earlier. It's proving that if you show up exactly who you are and as the best you that you can be, then you're going to just contribute and add great value to the business and to the bottom line and everything in between. But here are some, just natural traits and abilities that women are known for, that oftentimes we neglect or we put aside, or we don't honor, which we'll talk about, but we don't honor to the point of really appreciating and leveraging these traits and natural abilities. And I won't go through them all. You can see them here in front of you. And our goal today through this program will be to get you to where you decide what are those things, what are those traits and abilities and skills, talents, and achievements as well, all thrown in there, that you want to use as your brand, that you want to use to define and create what style of a leader you want to be. And then make sure that you go out and live it each and every day. And then, of course, we'll talk about how you assess and adjust and continue down that path and accelerating that style, that brand for yourself. But it's important for each and every one of us to know not only who we believe we are at this very moment in time, but how other people are perceiving it. It's important for us to know how we respond and react and we see ourselves in order for them to then be able to accept and understand and take in how other people are seeing themselves, in order to then make sure that who we believe we are and we're going out as is actually who other people are encountering. Because we sell ourselves short a lot of times when, you know, we might be told that we're such a nice person, and then yet people at work, you know, want to call us nasty names. That sounds very playgroundish, but I think you get the point. It's interesting how many women I'll speak to, and I'll ask them to describe themselves as a leader in this case. And their definition and the way people then in an assessment might perceive them totally skewed. Have you ever walked into a performance review and you're kind of suddenly shocked by what you're being told? Or have you ever experienced being, you know, completely overlooked or passed by for an opportunity, new project, promotion, and yet all you've ever received is great reviews? It can be because the fact that you're not asking and you're not seeking the specific, direct, and honest feedback that is needed in order for you to be very self-aware of who you are at all times. And if you can learn how to really tap in each and every second, quite honestly, each and every second about how you are coming across, how you're being interpreted, how you're communicating, and kind of being very present, as they say, as to how people are responding to you, then you will be able to very easily, very almost, you know, by routine, be able to pick up on those things in a very short period of time, and then be able to adjust and shift in or out of a particular state that you might be in. So being self-aware is critical in really learning and knowing what type of leader you are and you want to be, and what is needed then to kind of fill that gap to progress and accelerate toward the type of leader you want to be. So self-awareness is just critical, and it is all about the 360. Many of you probably have taken 360 assessments in your lifetime, Myers-Briggs, DISC, something, to kind of say, all right, this is how you think you are, this is how other people are perceiving that you are, and these are areas of improvement or change or opportunity that you can leverage in order for you to kind of continue and progress on in your position, your role, or in your leadership style. The self-awareness is just very, very key, and it provides such great energy and motivation and focus for yourself when at all times you're very much in tune with how you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you're coming across. You know, even as I sit here and I have a video camera in front of me, I can guarantee you some of you are able to see if I feel a little bit stressed or fast-paced, or I might not be getting my message across. It's kind of, it comes across, as much as I may not feel it, you see it. And so does your team members, and so do the people around you. If you should be a little bit kind of out of touch or out of tune with what you're actually feeling, seeing, saying, thinking, all those things. So as self-aware as you can become as a leader, the more productive and effective and productive you're going to be. I apologize if I repeated that twice. To everyone else around you. So self-awareness is key. The other thing when it comes to women, and this I found for myself, and yet I find on a regular basis with the majority of the female leaders that I work with or engage with, and that is they really aren't sure how to honor their skills, talents, achievements, experiences that they've had over their years. And it is important for us not only to be self-aware of the good, the bad, the ugly, but also to really appreciate and honor and understand the contributions that we're making. And so what I would, really advocate that you do is not only sit down and really kind of think about, and become self-aware of who you are and how you're coming across and how other people are perceiving you, but also to really appreciate and honor all the skills, talents, and strengths that you do have. So at any time when something negative or something disappointing happens to you, you have all of that honor to really leverage as momentum, as energy, as support to kind of keep you moving forward and not allow it to drag you down. I actually was on a phone call earlier with my own business coach, actually, and we've had some very challenging projects recently. Great projects, don't get me wrong, but they've been challenging. And so she kind of commented to me how impressed she is about how I go about responding to a challenge. And she even went back to the Lee Iacocca quote about, it's not about falling down, it's about how you get up and keep moving forward. And I had to thank her actually for recognizing that, because I could tend to forget it. And I'm sure you do too. I tend to forget how resilient I am, or how strong I am, or what I have achieved. Yes, I have made mistakes. I have had missteps. I have failed. I don't like that word, but I have failed over time, and yet it's fueled and made me who I am today. So I can't fault that. I want to honor kind of what those things have taught me, as opposed to, let them drain me and keep me kind of flat, so to speak. Because I could be on the couch just like you. I could be on the couch at any point in time if I allow those things to really get the better of me. So it's very important, especially as women, with everything that you have going on inside and outside the office, to really take time and ensure that you're honoring all of those things that you have achieved, you've accomplished, you've put out into the world on a day in, day out basis. Now, one area that I also find many C-level executives, CEOs and business owners, especially females, where they get kind of caught up, is a lack of a real vision and specific plan for themselves. So think about it. As women, you have, the family, you have the community, you might have PTA, and then you have your work, whether it be as a CEO, business owner, or C-level executive. You have your team, you have your strategic partners, you have your clients. There's so many people and things pulling at you. And there's times when you feel, and maybe it's a lot of times, that you just don't have any opportunity to really think about what it is that you want. What are those goals? What are those dreams? What are those bucket list items that you want to ensure that you've been able to, check off before this one life that you have that goes really, really fast is over? And so I really get very direct about the importance of women, especially, really knowing where they're going. There's a great quote from Tom Peters that I absolutely love. The world steps aside for the man or woman who knows where he is going. And it's true. And more importantly, we'll talk about it in our next video cast, but more importantly, it's not only important for you, but it's important for everyone else around you that they know where you're going, because remember, you're the leader. They're following you. So they want to make sure that you have a plan. And, you don't want to necessarily come across as if it's done, on an ad hoc basis, or it's up here and not written down, or it's something that you'll get to eventually. All those things I hear on a regular basis. So it's really important, if you want to ignite your leader within and see significant changes in what it is that you do and accomplish and achieve each and every day, and not only yourself, but your team and all the people around you, including your family and community, then sit down and plan what it is that you're working so hard towards, have a vision as to what it is that you're trying to accomplish and why is it important to you. And then, break it into specific goals that you would have for yourself, for your business career and your life, which could break down into also finances and your spirituality and your relationships. But, get it down on paper and then take those goals and really drill into what it is that you need to do to be achieving those goals. And then really use that to create the energy, focus, and momentum to execute on those goals so you can achieve them. So if you want to really ignite your leader within, have a vision and then share that vision. Another rich tip, real quick, is I find many women don't share their goals and dreams with those around them, and yet those people around them have such significant impact on whether or not they're going to achieve those goals. So it's important for you, not only in the office, sharing it with your team or your bosses or the board, whomever it might be, but it's also important to engage your family and your friends and the community to ensure that they know what it is that you're focused on and you're determined to accomplish. And at the same time, the purpose of sharing it with them is to ensure that you can then come up with a plan for how they're going to support you in achieving that. It's not about just communicating it to them. So if you ever read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, many people attacked her for the whole subject around her as a wife and how she engages her husband and her family. And yet, I found it to be, even though I'm single, I don't have a husband and a family to kind of, depend on or rely on or be dependent to. But her point was that it's important to engage them as to what it is that you're trying to do, even though they might not even understand it, especially the business stuff, because it might, require then the two of you or the family of you to really kind of come up with a plan within your own plan as to whether or not how you handle the kids, how you handle the PTA, how you handle obligations outside the workplace, if that's where your main goals are. And she got a lot of bashing for that as a result of that book, and yet, or part of that book. And yet I found it to be very significant as to how women can go about pursuing and achieving their business career and life ambitions, and that is by ensuring that the people around them are as involved and integrated into that as they themselves are. Because as you know, you can't achieve anything alone, and it's just going to be that much harder if you try to. Okay? So it's all about vision. And then, of course, one myth probably that I should have had earlier is many people will say that women don't think big enough. And I disagree, but I'll challenge you at the same time. I know vast numbers of women that have bigger dreams than anyone that they come up against, male or female. And I don't see a differentiation between how women think and dream and men. Now, what I will see is the difference between who pursues those things and who doesn't, or who takes the greater risk and who doesn't, or who goes and pursues and really ignites their team and their network in pursuit of those goals and dreams. And we'll talk about that on the next video cast. But women do not lack thinking big. You're probably shaking your head. You don't lack thinking big. It's a matter of executing against that vision. So there's having a vision, but then there's even going beyond that. Stretch goals, love them. Really pushing yourself beyond what you ever imagined and really thinking big and getting everyone around you to think big. I love those organizations and those groups who have a discipline or a practice, if you want to call it that, where they have dedicated time and forums within their business day for their teams to come together and simply focus on thinking big, getting outside the box and coming up with creative ideas that they hadn't thought of before. if you really drill into those companies and dissect what successes and failures and opportunities they're finding as a result of doing that, you'll find that it's been tremendous for them. Because one, it does create new ideas. Two, it does allow them to see their mistakes and or to fail prior to maybe rolling it out or executing on a really big idea. And at the same time, they get tremendous amount of feedback and momentum, energy, and support behind their ideas. So there's a rich tip for you. If you don't already, create an environment, create an atmosphere, create a forum for yourself and your team to really just think big and get outside the box. And you'll probably see not only your business expanding, but also your mind, your leadership, and you expanding as well. And then, of course, and women are so natural at this, but it's critical as leaders for us to engage. And when I say engage, I mean include and communicate and collaborate and really listen. Women do love to talk. At the same time, it's even more critical that we learn to quiet and listen, even more so than talk and share. There's still nothing wrong with that. We just have to be sure that it's in the right place that we're doing it. So engagement of your team, engagement of your partners, your vendors, your family, your community will continue to help you evolve and grow your leadership style. The more you learn to do that and or you continue to leverage that. And of course, all of this, and I'm not talking about mastering it, I'm merely talking about taking bite-sized pieces of them and embedding them into your everyday business acumen, your style, your brand, your persona, your natural self. Taking all of those things will give you the confidence, the boldness, the fearlessness that will allow you to pursue and achieve just about anything. And it'll provide you that platform of a leader that not only few but many will want to follow and will want to emulate and to really kind of revere and respect. And I don't know about you, but I know that is something that is very important to me, is to leave a legacy of other leaders in the world. Leave a legacy especially of other females who are confident and bold and fearless and driven in what it is that they're trying to achieve in business, career, or their lives. And if that's important to you, then it's important for you to build the confidence, the certainty, the strength to kind of go out and make your own destiny, define your own path of what type of leader you want to be. So, bottom line is this. Looking at all the myths and the beliefs, really trying to break down kind of how we as women can leverage our true natural abilities and traits, but yet at the same time infusing that with the skills and talents and achievements and experience we already have. Peel all that away, and you'll find that leadership is not about her versus him. It's not about a guy versus a woman thing. It's not about who's better at what. It's not about who should or shouldn't do or can or can't do. It's not about that at all. It kind of starts getting into how women support other women. And it's a subject that we can, talk on for hours about whether or not it is myth or fact that women support other women. I know, and I'll suggest that as natural nurturers and caregivers, so to speak, and champions and cheerleaders and coaches, it is in our natural innate ability to want to reach out and support and coach and rise up other individuals, especially women. Yet there's a tendency, especially in the business environment, there's a tendency to think, well, there's not enough positions for, for me or for a woman, and therefore if that position's going to be filled by anybody, it's going to be filled by me and nobody else, and therefore there is no support, mentoring, and coaching. Now, I'm making a generalization here. Many of the women that I know, the leaders that I know, certainly take women and focus on taking women under their wing and mentoring and coaching and guiding them. I just think we could be doing a much better job as a whole community in doing that. And if we build that confidence, that self-assurance that we talked about earlier, then mentoring and supporting other women is going to be more of a desire than an obligation or a need to do so. We're going to want to. You're going to want to, because we have the confidence in ourselves that we're where we should be. We have the ability to go wherever it is that we want to go, and yet there's somebody else that needs to be kind of pulled along, and therefore I want to give my time and effort and expertise to that individual. Really quick on a side note, it really kind of upset me on this very subject. I was watching the U.S. Open, and there was commentary going on amongst the sportscasters, Mary Carrillo and John McEnroe, Mary Carrillo and John McEnroe. And it was appalling for me to hear Mary, especially, offer out the fact that there is no way that Serena Williams would ever take time and focus on mentoring one of the other female up-and-comer tennis players. That's just unheard of. That would just be appalling if she were to do that, was the commentary. And I was so taken aback by that, because I'm sitting there thinking, well, Serena Williams is more than accomplished, has more money in the bank than she will ever, ever, ever be able to spend. She's already created a legacy for herself. She's already had every success and every win she could possibly imagine. The idea that she wouldn't, now I'm not saying that she said that, she agrees with this, but the idea that a Mary Carrillo, another woman, would think that she wouldn't take the time out to give some pointers and some mentoring and some guidance to a younger up-and-comer was just absolutely appalling to me. And you can go to Twitter to find out exactly how I voiced that disgust. But anyway, I apologize. I digress there. But I think it's important. It's important for us to help each other and to really, nurture and mentor and rise up other women, whether it is at our own level or it's, someone that is, pursuing the position that we're in, right now. And even if it is someone that kind of comes up and all of a sudden moves forward ahead of us, if we are that confident, assured, strong individual, woman specifically, then we won't have an issue with that. We'll just see that it wasn't an opportunity, it wasn't the right time, and that something else is coming along instead. And if you can learn to embrace that as opposed to the competitive or selfish aspect of like what Mary Carrillo was raising, then you're already in the winner's seat. Now, what is this all about? It really is all about you. It's all about how you want to go out as a leader, how you want to be perceived as a leader, and who it is that you want to be in your business career and your life. And therefore, you can ask yourself some very simple questions that aren't as simple as I make them sound to be. They're deep questions that you need to ask, think about, and really drill into in order to really understand what your leadership style is. And it really goes back to that being self-aware. Really understanding what is it that you want from your business, your career, your life, all aspects of those three things. What is it that you don't want? I know many women who are in careers, in relationships, in a financial state that they don't want to be in. And yet they're not taking the steps, they're not doing the things that could change that situation for them. So I really want to advocate that you don't not only look at what you want all the time, but also what don't you want, because that creates a tremendous filter for everything that you do going forward. It helps you make decisions. It helps you know when to take a risk and when not to take a risk. It helps you really kind of determine what goals, what dreams, what things you want to be pursuing, simply by knowing what you want and what you don't want at the same time. And then, who do you want to be? What do you want other people to say of you? I mean, write it out. Find it for yourself. But if you were to walk in a room and then walk out, what do you want them to be literally saying about you when they leave the room? That will also help you to define your values, your vision, your goals, your plans, your leadership style. And again, it all comes down to being self-aware of what it is that you, in this case, me, Bernadette, want, and what I don't want, and who I want to be. Right? So the bottom line is this: do you want to attract people towards you and be inclusive, collaborative, supportive, nurturing, a problem solver, take charger, someone with high values, one of high integrity and trust, all of those things? Or do you want to be someone that repels and is seen as controlling or domineering or curt or mean or a bitch, or is completely unpredictable and unplanned and disorganized? I mean, it really comes down to a bunch of words, just like I have them represented here, on one side of the paper or the other, and choosing which one of those things you want to be. And hopefully it's on the left-hand side of the paper as opposed to the right-hand side. But more so, it doesn't have to be 100% of them. You can come up with many traits and characteristics and values for yourself, and yet, you may lack in some. I wasn't the most engaging, open, inclusive person. I was definitely more controlling, more of a perfectionist, more of a dictator than a delegator. And confronting that and being honest about that was not easy. Don't get me wrong. Yet, at the same time, the moment I was aware of it, then I was able to immediately put things in place that would shift it. And so it was amazing how quickly I was able to accomplish that and got many responses and reactions and attraction to that new leadership style, that new leadership brand that I determined I truly wanted to be. And it not only became another persona, it became who I really, truly am, and I'm proud to be. And that's where I want you to be. All right? So what I'm going to do for you, too, is provide you something that you can use for that assessment of yourself. Because my one last rich tip for you is this: not only to be self-aware, we've talked about that, but to continually assess who you are, how you're being perceived, what it is that you want, what it is that you don't want, and where you are in the pursuit of those goals and dreams that you've laid out for yourself. You have to constantly assess it so you can then adjust it. As you adjust it, then you'll see change, and you'll see productivity, and you'll see achievement and results come as a result of it. And then lastly, as you do, and as you kind of master that discipline of, on a regular basis, I must do it multiple times during the day. I'm kind of stopping myself. I'm assessing where I'm at. Where am I mentally, physically, spiritually? Where am I in regards to how I'm coming across to you right now, or on a phone call that I was on earlier? And is there some way that I need to make some sort of adjustment or shift in how it is that I'm going out to the world, even if it's just amongst myself? I don't want to walk around being miserable. I don't want to walk around being tense or being dictatorial or being, controlling. Because then you walk around with a face like this as opposed to that. You know what I mean? So just a little gist there. But it's really important for you to assess, adjust, and accelerate what type of leader it is that you want to be. So as part of this program, you can go out to this particular link here that you see, and or I'll include it when this video cast goes out. and you can download a leadership assessment as well as a branding statement. So it'll be kind of almost like a template that you can use to define what your leadership style or leadership brand is. And then you can use it and work it and kind of just, you know, allow it to seep in over time. But it'll be a good kind of framework and a good template for you to use as you move forward in your igniting your leader within. All right. So I am thrilled that you joined and you stayed in and you took the time and the focus on yourself and on your personal and professional goals and aspirations in a way that will allow you to ignite your leader within. And like I said, your next video program is going to come probably in, you know, within the week that you've received this first video. And we're going to talk about igniting your team, network, and yourself to performance, profits, and passion. And then our last video cast will be all around what your CEO really needs and wants from you. All right? So I am thrilled that you joined me today, and that you took the time out of your busy schedule to really help you ignite your leader within. And I'll look forward to partnering with you again on the next video cast. Thanks, everybody.